Hello! Today is March 21st. My name is Reagan. What's happening in the world? First up, let's get some drink because we got a long show. Let's begin our week with Russia asking China for assistance in their invasion of Ukraine, which set the whole world alit. But moving on, Ukraine's president addressed Congress about regional and global effects that very same day or the next, and NATO launched their second largest military exercise in history in Norway. 30,000 troops, tons of ships and planes. Surging oil and gas prices have raised recession alarm bells around the world. But another economic indicator starting to look ominous. The yield curve. Yes, it's flattening, which means recession again. Just maybe this time worse than the one I graduated out into the adult world with. Back to climate change. Low water levels at key U.S. reservoirs are putting us in uncharted territory, an expert says. Continuing, water managers are tracking elevations of Lake Powell and Lake Mead, two of the largest reservoirs in the U.S., as a historic mega drought made worse by climate change grips western states. We're talking about the second largest reservoir ever constructed by the United States. Justin Mankin, an NOAA drought task force co-lead and assistant professor at Dartmouth, told Yahoo Finance, quote, "The thing is like 2,000 miles long when it's full. It's held back by one of the largest concrete structures ever built by humans, the Glen Canyon Dam. So the idea that this massive structure, which I think is a pretty emblematic of America's best effort to build a kind of transform water supply in the American West, is failing and is really putting us in uncharted territory legally and politically and socially and economically. So far, 2,500 civilians or so died in Ukraine, and Mark something spent 340 days in space tying Mark Kelly. Women made 82 cents on the dollar compared to their male counterpart. In this, from the ancient sludge of lake beds in Asia's Tibetan plateau, scientists can decipher a vision of Earth's future. The future, it turns out, will look very similar to the mid-Pliocene warm period, an epoch 3.3 to 3 million years ago, when average air temperature at mid-latitude was rarely dropped below freezing. It was a time when permanent ice was just beginning to cling to the northern polar regions, and mid-latitude alpine permafrost or perpetually frozen soil, which was much more limited today. Basically, it was a hellscape. According to a U.S. auditor, each launch of the Space Launch System will cost an unsustainable $4.1 billion. Russia imposes sanctions on Biden, his son, Secretaries Blinken, and a slew of other people. Surprise, and withdrawals from the Council of Europe. And a Portland Planning Bureau director departs with $195,000 of severance amid climate change program problems. Zelensky wants a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And North Korea tried to launch another ballistic missile, but it blew up midair. A massive 7.1 earthquake by Fukushima, and Haiti is in chaos and kidnappings are up 180%. Kitty, stop. Ukraine says Germany was much more focused on business than protecting Ukraine. $100 billion of damage so far in Ukraine. Nearly a quarter of staff from schools during the pandemic reported physical and verbal attacks. Doesn't sound like a society in decay at all. Auto-related pedestrian deaths have risen up 59% since 2019, and James Webb sent back its first image. Fires in Siberia have contributed to brown carbon plumes in the Arctic, and Utah kids suspend Spencer Cox over climate change and air pollution. Some U.S. citizens died in Ukraine, and Biden and Xi talked on the phone on Friday. Will Russia invade the Balkan states too? Biden celebrated St. Patrick's Day at the White House with Irish Prime Minister and said that his grandmother said to him, "Joe, if you're lucky enough to be Irish, you're lucky enough." Isn't that sharp? Delta Airlines is going to raise pay by 4% for 75,000 employees that keep flying and burning the cryosphere. Sounds great. Trudeau says, sorry, we can't do no fly zone over Ukraine. And pretty much Russia's been bombing Ukraine nonstop all week. The economy and stocks here in America are volatile
As fuck.
and we're all fucked. Tornado and flash flood warnings in the southeast states, and a 13-year-old in a pickup truck. Why does my cat like to play on the most noisy thing when I'm filming a video? It doesn't make any sense. It's like they hate us. A 13-year-old in a pickup truck in West Texas drove straight into a van and killed 9 people total in a fiery blaze. What a champ. Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo, Scarlett Johansson signed a petition urging banks to stop financing Canadian gas pipeline. Yes, the open letter, also signed by Taiki Waititi, Jane Fonda, Robert Downey Jr., urges the Royal Bank of Canada to stop financing the controversial Coastal GasLink pipeline. Schwarzenegger also videoed to Russians about his father, who was in the Nazi regime, and regretted it. Putin says military plan is going to plan in a giant packed stadium. Pretty awful. We got a new surge coming from a new Omicron variant that's raping China and the UK right now, even though the UK just lifted their travel ban restrictions. Russia uses a hypersonic missile to destroy an ammo depot, and 1.5 million children have fled Ukraine with high risk of being trafficked. Fires in West Texas killed deputy's son and destroyed 50 homes about 100 miles west of Dallas, which I left 2 years ago. Pope Francis says now anyone can head a Vatican department, not just ordained evangelicals.
Or whatever.
The Arctic sea ice minimum dipped farther, and I ate well. This has been your March 21st What's Happening in the World update. My name is Reagan, the Doom Wizard. Thank you to all of my Patreons and PayPal supporters. You're kind of all in the same. You make this program possible, and I have so much fun making it. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Don't go crashing into any cars, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Ciao.